times have I been downhearted, looked up and saw him smiling like a shining dime. Yeah. And hoped that he would stay and tell me why he was so happy if he had a dime. Well, there was a way to raise him, catch a flying horse and chase him. Everybody's going to the moon, me and you. Everybody's going, it'll be quite soon. It's customary songs like this, use a word like smooth, and wondered who we were. Hey!
Judy Dunkel, can you name him?
Would that be Eagle Cole?
Actually, can we move this a little closer? You're like, impossible.
This is what we do. Do.
French Connection. Buddy Shotz 118.
With me and Gene.
From us to you. So, yeah, this is the second week in the Gene Hackman month. Mean Gene week. Month. Month week. So, as usual, if you guys like these podcasts and you like what we do, you know what to do. Subscribe, like, and all that stuff, and become a buddy today. So, once again, I put out a poll asking if people had seen The French Connection. We have a 33% that people have, and a 67% that people haven't seen it.
All right.
But maybe this will change your mind.
Yeah.
And then since we already put a poll out last week about have you seen Welcome to Mooseport, I put out a poll to say, did you like Welcome to Mooseport? 100% said no. So
you'll get no argument from me.
Yeah.
Because this was a mistake. I'm sorry.
How do we go from The French Connection to Welcome to Mooseport?
Exactly.
Good God. Okay, so I guess we're gonna update you on here for part 2 of 5.
I'm sure everyone's riveted to find out what happens.
The 22 to 44 minute mark of this film.
It was another chore to get through.
Yeah. I have notes here, but I'm like...
So I figured out this movie is a sitcom, but there's no com. It's just a sit. It's all about a premise that...
I have to sit and I can't leave. I'm in hell.
I think they thought the situation would be so hilarious that it would make the whole movie good. And it's just
it is very you can tell when they stop to let the audience laugh at something that's supposed to be funny, but it's not. It's the kind of...
Also, Ray Romano is his character is one of the least... Is one of the worst characters.
He's one of the least likable main characters in a movie. I don't really understand and also his motivations really don't make any sense.
He has no motivations. It wasn't even his idea to run for mayor.
Well, the funny thing is it was, but it doesn't make any sense because I don't understand. So Gene Hackman was gonna just say fuck it, I'm not gonna run for mayor in this second part. And as I called it, Ray Romano runs for mayor because of something. In the end,
because he's being cuckolded.
Well. Yes and no. He is being cuckolded, but the reason why he originally even puts his name in to be mayor is never explained, but I don't give a fuck. I'm just saying, so I have a note here that says, I don't get why Ray Romano is even running randomly for office. I guess my opinion, my opinion is, do I really give a shit? But when he first...
The answer is no.
When they find out, Gene Hackman is well, I'll just be unopposed and be the mayor... When they find out that, randomly Ray Romano put his name in to be the mayor, too, it's there are parts of this script that were never written. And it leads to... I don't know.
I like Ray Romano, but he's embarrassing to watch in this movie. He's horrible.
His character is closer to his character on Everybody Loves Raymond, where he's kind of like a bastard. I don't know. I think he can be okay on Everybody Loves Raymond, but the problem is
he was in The Irishman. Remember, he was great in that.
Well, I mean, I'm saying in sitcom form, it seems like he plays that character that everything is supposed to revolve around him, but you don't really understand why because he's kind of a self-indulgent narcissist. Gene says, "What a dump." I agree. Wait, Rip Torn shows up in this movie, which I was fucking blown away about. Fucking Zed from Men in Black makes an appearance in this fucking movie, and, it doesn't really... It's nice to see him, but it's kind of like... It's like Gene Hackman's in this movie, Rip Torn's in this movie, but... I think we got a comment on one of our like our past weeks said I hate Ray Romano or something like that.
Well, if you've only seen Welcome to Mooseport, I don't blame you.
Yeah, he was in this movie where I think like either his wife or his daughter was sick, and he was like he should have won an Oscar for it.
Oh yeah, The Big Sick.
Yeah, but like
I forgot about
if you've seen him in just like Everybody Loves Raymond or this is like you said, it's like drag. It's like the lowest common denominator, and sitcoms can be good. Like I really like Tool Time. What's it called? Home Improvement back in the day, because the jokes were at the expense of like Tim Allen. Like it came across like he thought he was great, but everybody else knew he was an idiot.
You're like,
yeah, but you know what I mean. Like that's how it can be done right. Mm-hmm. But like this is just. I don't know. Ray says you knuckled my bone. And then the last note I have says underwear picking out scene, kill me. And that's essentially where the we've stopped for the fucking. Dude, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, this was horrible.
I hate this.
Why do we do this?
Why? What the I mean, this is his last movie, and I assumed there would be something going on here, but.
Well, maybe if he beats Ray Romano to death in the end of this movie, it'll be worth it.
What's your predictions from the 44 to the 66 minute mark of this film?
More non-laughter.
More like nonsensical dog shit. There's going to be another cutaway to like an animal doing something disgusting or stupid at some point in the next like 22 minutes, because every 22 minutes something happens with an animal.
It sucks, dude. And all the like townspeople are supposed to be wacky, but it's just like annoying.
They're just like shitty versions of like the Andy Griffith Show, like Mayberry people. It's like take a character from that show and just make them like the most annoying piece of shit ever.
Should we stop this, or are we in too deep?
That's up to you. I really fucking don't care. At this point, this sucks. It's like each week I'm excited to watch a movie, but then like it's essentially ruined because fucking we gotta watch Welcome to Mooseport. I mean, it's not ruined, but it's like horrible. It's like. We'll discuss it, I guess, maybe over dinner and find out what's going on.
Let's move on to the main event.
Yeah, let's move on to, like, actual, like, entertainment here. So this week is The French Connection, 1971 neo-noir action thriller starring Gene Hackman, Roy Schneider of Jaws fame, and Fernando Rey, and directed by William Friedkin. So I guess this was... based on Robin Moore's 1969 book of the same name. It tells the story of fictional NYPD detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle and Buddy Cloudy Russo, whose real-life counterparts were narcotics detectives Eddie Egan and Sonny Grosso, in pursuit of wealthy French heroin smuggler Alain Charnier, played by Ray. So,
this movie was a huge hit when it came out. It was like one of the biggest movies of the year, and it won a ton of Oscars, including Best Picture.
It has that like 70s like grit feel to it.
Yeah, but this was early. Like this was one of the edgiest movies ever at that time. So it was like pushing boundaries back in the day, and it still holds up, I believe. But Gene Hackman won an Oscar for this as well. So we watched the two movies where he won Oscars for.
Yeah, you like set all these up as far as like how I guess we were gonna wait in what order we were gonna. Well, except for Superman.
For Unforgiven was Best Supporting Actor, and this was for Best Leading Actor.
Leading actor, yeah, because he's definitely the lead in this film for sure.
Yeah, it's the Gene Hackman show.
Yeah,
and he does not disappoint. And he is mean.
The funny thing is, the tagline for this movie is like, Doyle is bad news, but a good cop, but he's not really a good cop either, so I don't understand that tagline.
The poster of this movie is him shooting a guy in the back. Like, that tells you...
That's the one scene where he's actually a good cop, not killing the guy, but like he actually chases this guy down for doing something horrible. But every other scene you see him in, he's like essentially the rules don't apply, and he's doing all kinds of horrible shit that literally lead to like no outcome. There's no justification. He doesn't even get what
He's
looking
jeopardizing the safety of the whole city
for nothing.
with his
Yeah.
insanity. But it's based on a real person who
Right, yeah.
kind of acted that way. He was a troublesome figure.
Well,
like,
this takes me back to like Dark Blue with Kurt Russell. I think there's definitely been a lot of cops that have like just disregarded or bent their rules to try to get a result, even if they don't ever get a result.
and he's also straight up racist.
Yes.
Which Gene Hackman said it was very difficult for him to play this, but like he knew it was a good character.
Like, that's why he won the Oscar, because he's a racist. No, yeah.
He knew it was a good character, and it was...
It was kind of like a little jarring when he
yeah.
drops like the N-bomb or whatever. Because at first, it kind of just... You think he's just like somebody that's just shaking people down. But then it becomes like, okay.
And another funny thing is he said like that first scene in the movie where they kind of chase after that dude and beat him up. That was the first scene they filmed, and he couldn't do it. Like, it was too hard for him. So they were like, William Friedkin's like, all right, we'll come back to this later. And then they came back and did it at the very end.
Yeah.
And Gene was like, oh, I was all about it. Like, I was so into the character, I had no problem like beating this guy's ass.
Like, he didn't even pretend to beat him. He beat him up for real. It's like, what the fuck, dude? The soundtrack is pretty prevalent in this movie too. Like, they have a jarring music in the opening credits. It's music, but it's also, I would say it's like half music and half just like random sound effects. So it's kind of hard to say that it's
effective, like, for this movie.
Right.
It's supposed to put you on edge.
It's not something that you'll be like listening to while you're working out. Because it's like,
unless you're a psycho.
I'm like,
Bow, bow, bow.
it's like reminds me of like certain wrestlers that have just shitty, like their entrance music is like or like an ambulance siren. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So, most accurate scene of a person eating something on film is a guy, it's a random dude eating something, and then he like spits out a piece of the food that's like gross or like, and I'm like, dude, that's so relatable. Have you ever been eating something and you're like, that's kind of like not, it's like everybody's done that. I was like, that's so realistic, which I just thought that was weird that they had that in the movie, but it was just so realistic.
But it wasn't realistic when Gene Hackman threw part of a donut away. Like, no, not a delicious donut.
I'm sure it was nasty. I don't know. I wonder what kind of like craft service they had on this for like. I wonder how. You know what I mean? Like how. I'm sure by that point, if they took a bunch of takes, he was sick of that shit.
Yeah.
Going through old world streets with a baguette. One of my notes, I was like, "This is some pretty good location here." What did they film that part of it? I wonder.
Like Marseille, France, I think.
It's like, man, they had the money. That was some good stuff.
Yeah. Setting up the villainous Frenchman.
The villainous. So we got a gun pointed at a guy, and then when he gets shot, his face turns greasy.
They turn into red paint.
Well, it's weird because
they shoot him with red paint.
Yeah, they shoot him with like grease and red paint. It's like, huh? It's also, this is around the time of like Dawn of the Dead, where like blood on film is like pinkish red.
Yeah.
So like when people get shot, like just like pinkish red shit comes out. It's not like the visceral, like very realistic blood that you see nowadays.
Gotta love that 70s
right.
blood. It always looks like red paint to me.
Yeah.
Just like right out of a bright red paint can.
Sherwin-Williams over here. But Brooklyn, Gene Hackman is Santa talking to kids. Oh, you like Santa Claus, huh? I was like, that was a weird line. Why would you ask people that are talking to Santa Claus if they like them? He's like taking a poll, and they're like, no, Santa Claus sucks. You motherfuckers.
He's not doing a good job as Santa.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, Gene Hackman is a bad Santa, but a good cop. I'm like, what? So then Brody enters the bar. Roy Schneider.
Brody.
Yeah. He shows up. It was nice to see him, because the last time I saw him was, on this podcast.
Jaws.
Was in Jaws.
Yeah, see our previous episode.
Yep.
But he was also nominated for this movie.
Nice.
And he was like, I can't even believe I was nominated because I didn't really have any dramatic scenes. But he's just good in it.
I think the movie was so good, and he was good in it, so it's not like, what can you say?
Yep.
But dude flees and is cornered and like slices Brody, Roy Schneider. I don't remember what his name is in this because I think it's Buddy or something.
Buddy
like
Russo.
That, yeah.
Buddy Russo.
I just keep calling him Brody because that's like, to me at least, that's like the thing I know him from, the like most popular.
I know him from Sequest.
Dude,
You remember that?
Yeah, I actually started watching that and got through like half the first episode and was like, I'm done. Just because it was so long. It's kind of like one of those old sci-fi things where the first episode is it's like a fucking movie. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll have to keep going through it.
I don't know, man. I was so excited for that show, and then like when I watched the first episode, I was like, this is boring.
Yeah. That's the problem. It was kind of boring. Because a lot of it involves, like, there are people trying to steal, like, water under the sea. There's, like, oil under the sea. They're trying, it's just a bunch
Under the ocean blue?
Yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. So the dude flees, and the cops, like, beat his ass. And, like, Gene grabs a rock, and I'm like, Jesus!
This is when you know he's not messing around.
Yeah, when you know that he's, like, a piece
brutalizing
of shit.
brutalizing this dude.
People, yeah. I'm gonna nail your ass for picking your feet in Poughkeepsie. I'm like, but then that's like something that comes up later that's like
A classic
joke, and it's like,
But a lot of this, I mean, this is obviously, or not obviously, this is
obviously,
it's
are you
based on
guys
a
paying
real
attention?
story, and like the stuff they do in this movie is
Yeah.
what the real cops did.
Yeah,
And they would ask nonsense questions like that to like try to confuse the criminals.
right. I thought this was cool. The criminal mastermind or whatever is like fishing. He has a house and he's like fishing off literally his like front lawn because it's like a gate or like a fence, and it's like a sheer cliff and it goes into the ocean. I'm like, dude, that is so cool.
He's also eating oysters right out of the sea.
I was like, it's a little dicey, but
Don't get any fresher than that.
I'm
Fernando
always worried
Rey.
about diarrhea.
As the villainous Charnier.
Yeah. Even though, the only time I've ever had them, when you got them, they were good. It was just, you know,
Yeah, delicious.
you gotta make sure they're
But
not,
gross.
like, fucking already open. Gene drops, the N-bomb, not to trust them, then says not to trust anybody. So it's like, he says that, and his partner's like, he's like, what if they were, like, white? And he's just like, don't trust anybody. So it's almost kind of like he's backing up whatever he's saying by saying that. And it's like, I almost wonder if his partner's kind of like, dude, that's fucked up to say that, because you never hear his partner say that, like, about it, about, like, black people. He seems like his partner is really not, like, racist at all, but, like, he's fine with going along with what Popeye's
That's why they
doing.
make a good team, because
He, like, reels him in.
yeah. Exactly. But he'll also defend him.
Yeah.
So,
Just like you reel me in.
but I mean, Popeye and the real life Eddie Egan are total maniacs. Like, he's
Yeah.
just out of control.
They try to, like, make Roy look like a nicer guy. So, like, music number.
Dude, when they walked into this bar, I was like, I
This is really cool.
want to go into a bar like this, but that'll never happen. Like, they don't exist like this anymore. But it was so cool.
You couldn't just walk into a bar like that
I want to
anymore.
walk into a bar.
You go in and you put your hat on me, and I'm like, yee.
But when Gene looks over and sees the drug dealers and that music,
yeah.
I was like, holy shit, it's on. Like, I
It
was
was just-
pumped.
really intense,
It's just great filmmaking.
horrifying.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's a great moment.
they fucked up the assignment.
They didn't understand the assignment.
So they decide to tail him, and it's almost kind of like he's like complaining. And he's like, "Oh, you're having fun." And it's like, eh. So what was this?
You can pick them off.
Yeah, it's like, what's the significance of putting the straw hat in the back right of the car? Was
I
that
don't
to
know.
Maybe
I
signal
don't know.
other police officers that they were tailing somebody.
Something
and to
like
not
that.
Pull them over.
I couldn't
or
figure out
something.
exactly what the deal was there, but
I thought that was cool. It was just So we've got I'm sure a shout out to Bruce Willis here with Bruno's Heroes hot and cold sandwiches from the past.
you're like, one day Bruno will return.
Yeah, he like eats the sandwich and he's like, uh-oh. You go on and like, may I take your order? $50 an hour to have you model this. My husband wouldn't like you hear you say that. I don't care if he hears. It's like, and she's like, okay, I'll do it. Like she was gonna model for like Roy Schneider. Well, not Roy Schneider, for Buddy, who's like his character. He was like, come on, take your clothes off. So Gene Hackman says, all right, Popeye's here. Get your hands on your heads. Get off the bar and get on the wall. It's like, that's something that's in the trailer. It's
Popeye's here.
Popeye's here.
But like, Eddie Egan did that exact same thing in real life for real. And
he did it in real life for real.
Gene Hackman was like, I can't believe a person could actually do this.
Yeah.
Like, control like a unruly gang.
Well, like
mob.
in a movie, it's like, you know, obviously you'll do whatever you say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, whatever. Do whatever I say. But like, it's in the script.
Real life has no script.
Right. So he finds a bunch of drugs taped to the bottom of the bar, and he like
what is this, a hospital area?
Yeah, mixes them up and ruins them. And he's like, "Yeah, anybody want a milkshake?"
I was like, "One, please."
He's shaking up this one dude with like a really cool afro, hardcore, and then like he's like, "Get in the fucking bathroom," and he's like, "Hey man, how you doing?" Like they're like, he's like his informant or whatever. Like they're like.
Yeah.
I would say they're friends, but I think it's more so like...
They're friendly.
Yeah, friendly. And he's like, okay, you know, thanks for the information. He's like, where do you want it? And he's like, huh? And he's like, where do you want it? Oh, yeah, here, right here, or whatever. And he, like, punches him in the face and, like, throws him out the door to make it look like he actually was doing something to him.
Like in wrestling, sometimes you need some juice.
Yeah, it's true. Crazy kid locked Popeye up with his own cuffs. He, like, takes home this, like... I don't know, like this girl or whatever, like on a bike.
Yeah, that was one of the deleted scenes, is him actually picking her up because he like steals her bike, like puts her in the cop car, and then sure enough,
he extorts her.
He's tied to the bed.
So they're listening to like this audio, that they bugged this dude's place or whatever, doing like stakeout, and they're laughing like John Carpenter, Kurt Russell, like in that commentary. Like,
they're loving it, dude.
Like they thought it was like the funniest thing ever, but the stuff that's on tape isn't funny at all. So it's like they're like madmen.
But they're getting the info they need to crack the case,
which never actually happens. So, haunting, tense music plays as Gene watches the men they are tailing eat dinner at a very expensive restaurant. As he freezes his ass off outside and has a slice of pizza with Brody. It's like, it's very like, you see like the two halves. Yeah. It's like, they're in there in the warmth doing like, eating like, it's like, reminds me of that restaurant we went to for like Mark's.
Yeah, it's like a very fancy party. French restaurant.
It's like the most expensive restaurant ever. And like,
he's eating escargot.
They're just eating like cold slices of pizza and shit.
There's one shot that's so great where like, it's from inside the restaurant,
yeah.
But you see Gene Hackman off in the distance, and he's drinking like nasty coffee,
and he's like
and he pours
shivering.
it out.
Yeah.
And then they zoom out, and they're pouring like this fancy coffee.
Yeah, I mean, he puts in the legwork in this movie. Like, that's the one thing you can say as far as like him being a good cop, but like the results just don't even justify the means.
Mm-hmm. I was jealous of his New York slice. It looked delicious.
I think you're just hungry.
Yeah, could be.
Nice lab setup to measure drugs. 89% pure. I was like, drug wood.
Even the drug scene was cool because he was like, get ready for blast off. Like, I've never seen anything so pure.
It's like, these are the kind of characters they put in like shows or movies that like, I'm sure they exist in real life, but if they do, it's like, okay. Tense chase scene where he loses and finds the guy he's tailing. Then he calls it in, and the guy like tricks him. It's very like James Bondish, where like he's going after this guy and finally gets him onto like the train. And he steps out, and Gene steps out and pretends like he's not looking for him. Then he steps back in. The door's closed, and he's like, "Shit!" And the guy's like, "See ya."
And in real life, that actually happened. The dude waved to him, and that's like the piece of evidence they used to convict him because he knew he was being tailed since he waved at him.
It was like, yeah.
Like
he acknowledged him.
Exactly.
Because it could have just been anybody.
Right.
So, yeah.
But that's an iconic moment and a really cool scene.
Yeah. Calls it in, and the guy tricks him. He's like, gotcha. So then we've got like a random scene in this movie, or not a random scene, but a scene that happens just kind of like out of nowhere, where like a sniper kills a shit of like out of a lady with a baby, and then he's shooting at Popeye. Yeah, but he's At first, I didn't understand that because there's no indication of it for a bit. You know what I mean?
Well, he said he was going to take care of Popeye, like he told.
Right, but I'm saying like there's no indication the person that was shooting was trying to kill Popeye.
Yeah.
Because he's like doesn't even come close to him, and I thought it was just like an active shooter or something at first. But like he like goes to chase him down and stuff, and like he like runs up an entire flight of stairs to the roof, and then like sees the gun there by itself, and then he sees the guy all the way down at the bottom and still is able to catch up to him. I was like, okay, I don't know about that.
It was like the world's fastest elevator.
Yeah, I was like, not possible. And then like he runs after him, chases him to a train. The guy gets on the train, and he has to follow him in like a civilian hijacked car. And then the dude makes the train pilot like blow through the stops. And he kills like one dude, and then like he kills like the other like people on the train that are like what are they? I guess like
The conductor.
well, no, not the conductor. He kills the
It's like a security guy or something.
yeah, the security. Yeah, one of the other security. He's like, "Come on, man, just give me the gun. It's not a big, just calm down." And like the conductor though, the guy that's driving the train, like fucking like passes out or dies of a heart attack or something. He's like,
So what'd you think of this chase scene? Because it's like this is the iconic scene
it's
from the
probably
movie.
the best thing in the movie by far, in my opinion.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think this is the best
was
chase
shocked.
scene in movie history. Like, it may not be the most spectacular, but it's like the best made and most dangerous feeling because they really did it for real. Like,
I mean, I don't know. I'd have to like see other, because I don't really watch a lot of action films, so I can't really think of any other ones off the top of my head. But I can't, I can't say that it wasn't like fucking the best one I can think of at the moment.
but like all the wrecks that he keeps like crashing into cars and
Yeah.
stuff, like that was all real.
Yeah.
Like they just did this, and they hoped for the best. And like William Friedkin's like, I'm glad we didn't kill anybody, but like this was so irresponsible. I would never do this again because like they were committing crimes basically, making the movie and filming it.
He was a bad cop.
But it's so good, and like Gene Hackman is so intense. He's like screaming as he's chasing the dude. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think the thing that kind of works well in this is that like when he's screaming, you can barely hear it because they're like usually outside the car, so it's like his face and everything is like his like. I would say it's anger, but I think it's more so he's like psyching himself up to keep going because otherwise it's like any person that wasn't in that like obsessed like mindset would stop at these like red lights and all this shit. So it's like, yeah, he barely misses a lady and her baby and like goes through like a set of boxes that were set up on the side of the road. And then like
I'm surprised there wasn't a fruit stand.
yeah. And like when the dude that's driving the train like faints or whatever, like the train crashes and he finally catches up to the guy and he's like, hold it, don't go anywhere. And the guy turns to like run away and he like shoots him in the back and the guy's like, ugh.
Yeah, that was very controversial at the time. It's like everyone told William Friedkin, like, you can't put this in your movie.
You can't like have
the
a
hero
dude
shoot an
shoot a
unarmed
dude
man
in the back. Yeah.
And he was like, no, you're wrong. And it was like,
He's like, no, you're wrong. He will shoot him in the back.
yeah. And he, like when the movie came out, people were cheering at that point. Yeah. Like, yay!
Well, I think this is one of the only scenes in the movie where like Popeye is actually like kind of like a heroic cop. Like
when he almost killed that woman and her baby.
when he like chases after this guy that killed this random lady and like he's trying to catch this person
judge, jury, and execution.
at any cost. And like he was gonna bring him in, but the guy tried to run away, and when he ran away, it's like you don't know if he has a gun in his or something like that. So yeah.
But yeah, this movie this is the highlight. Was the chase scene. It's amazing.
Yeah. Then we got like some Clerk style street hockey going on while they're surveilling. They get to the part where like they get this car that's being surveilled, and it's like they know that like this car belongs to like the the drug people or whatever, and they're like, okay, we need to like take this car in and like rip it apart and find like possibly find something. Come on now, we gotta find something.
It's filled with heroin.
Yeah, they rip the car apart and they don't find anything. And he's just like, damn, what the hell, man? It's gotta be here. And like, that's when like Roy Schneider was kind of like wondering, like he's like kind of comparing like the weight of the car and stuff, and then find out that like it's overweight from like when it's been measured and stuff. And they're like, okay, this doesn't make sense. There's got to be something, at least something in here that like isn't adding up. And like they find out like the mechanic took everything out except for like the panels like that you step onto to get into a car at the bottom, the rocker panels. And that's when they like hurry up and rip them out, and they find like
it's like there's only one place we didn't look.
Yeah, I'm like, why didn't you look there first? Well, not there first, but like why?
Gene is pissed. He's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of weird because it was like, so you went through all this trouble to like cut open shit, and the mechanic didn't rip out the part that was like right there. Not like he would have known where it was, but like
it had an arrow like heroin.
Why did he not also do that? So I agree with Gene. So they find the drugs, and they show kind of like a meeting, and these guys who like think they're out, they got away with everything and stuff, and they have like this police blockade, and that's when Gene waves at the guy, and he's like, and the guy, they like back out, and there's like this huge shootout, dude. It's just like, holy shit, like. This reminds me of, like, some mobster movies I've seen where, like, dudes are fleeing, like, Dick Tracy or something, and they just get fucking killed while they're trying to run away from the cops.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of the main guys tries to run away, yeah, like, he had just said bye to his brother, and he's, like, running away, and he gets fucking shot.
Gunned down
Yeah.
like a dog.
Yeah, it was out of control. And then we got some pretty tense shit, because, like, they go into this, like, building, and like it's dark and everything.
They
and,
walk
like,
into a scene from Resident Evil.
Yeah, and he's like, they're both the guys are in there. We got to go get them, and they're like, okay. And like he fucking mistakenly kills the shit out of like a fellow officer.
He blows away
Yeah.
Muldrick, a federal agent.
Yeah.
He turns him into brown bread, and you're like,
And he doesn't seem to give a shit.
Yeah.
Once he does it,
well, he's so like he has
Yeah.
a kill frenzy at this
Yeah.
point. He's like, he's gonna stop at nothing to
find
kill
the guys.
Charnier.
So, yeah, he's just like, you shot Muldrick, and he's just like, oh, he's fucking in here, he's in here. And that's when his partner's like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? So, like, then, like, he walks into, like, a dark room, and, like, a shot fires out, and that's, like, the end of the movie. And it's
What do you think of that?
I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, what the fuck happens?
To me, that like
He blows his
elevates
head off.
this movie. He kills Roy Scheider. It's like, no!
he kills himself. It's like, what?
That puts this movie over the top.
He went in there and kills actually like Popeye the Sailor Man. He's like, I'm the only Popeye motherfucker. What?
Popeye versus Popeye.
Popeye
Whoever wins, we lose.
Dawn of Justice. Dawn of Spinach. Did they ever like say how he got the name Popeye from popping people in the eye? Maybe? What's Buddy's name, or is Buddy his like? I don't know.
I think that's his name. The real guy was named Sonny Rosso, but his nickname was Cloudy.
That's what it was, Cloudy. I wonder why he got that name. You never know with this kind of stuff sometimes.
Because his personality was the opposite of Sonny.
Because he liked drinking cloudy water.
Blowing fat clouds vaping.
Fat clouds.
That's what it's called.
Never heard that before.
You haven't lived.
That's true. I'm not a freak. Joel Weinstein, or Weinstein. I'm like Harvey Weinstein. Joel Weinstock was indicted by a grand jury. Case dismissed for lack of proper evidence. Angie Boko, guilty of misdemeanor. Lou Boko, guilty of conspiracy and possession of narcotics, sentence reduced. Henry Devereaux, guilty of conspiracy, served 4 years in a federal pen. Alain Charnier, the like main guy, he was never caught. He's believed to be in France. So it's like essentially like all this stuff to finally get the French connection like turned to like kind of nothing because they caught all these people, but like either they served no time or like they got away. So it's like
that's kind of what happened in real life.
Yeah.
Like they got the drugs, which was great, but they didn't.
It's kind of
like the
like
main dude Charnier. He was able to flee to France, and like they could never. The French government like wouldn't cooperate, so he basically lived his life.
It's kind of like what's it called? The one dude that went to jail finally, but they called him like the Teflon Don because like they kept trying to fucking because they knew he was doing shit, but they could never like get anything to stick. So it says detectives Doyle and Russo were transferred out of Narcotics Bureau and reassigned. It's like to the fucking murder department. Like, oh yeah, we have another murder. I just killed somebody. And that's the end of the film.
Yeah.
They had some, we had some real laughs along the way.
It was a laugh riot from start to finish.
Yeah. I was cracking up, man. I was like, dude, this is fucking hilarious. He blew that guy away. He shot him in the back. What a hero.
So do you think Mean Gene deserved his Oscar gold?
Yeah, probably. I would assume so. What else was up this year? Do you know?
I don't know. Like, nobody knows.
You're like, welcome to Mooseport.
But this, to me, like...
but yeah, I think that, like...
this is my favorite Mean Gene movie of all of his performances. I think this is the best.
He's like...
Except for Welcome to Mooseport.
Yeah. His face.
But there's a couple other things. So there's a sequel to this movie, French Connection 2.
What?
Yeah. Which, that's kind of a funny title because it's just called French Connection 2. But it's okay. It's nowhere near as good
Who's
as this
in
movie.
it?
Mean Gene.
What?
It's weird because in the sequel he goes to France. So it starts out as like he's a fish out of water in France.
Oh,
He's
so is
looking
this
for the
kind of
dude.
like they're taking major liberties here, or did
this did not actually happen. But he gets kidnapped by the bad guys and they get him hooked on heroin, so he becomes a junkie basically.
Jesus.
And but the ending of the movie is great because he like kicks the habit finally, and he finds the bad guy, and there's another chase. He's chasing him down, and it like takes forever. It's just running, and then he finally catches up to the guy, shoots him in the head. Credits. Like that's the end.
Sounds like the most unrealistic thing ever, though. Because why would drug dealers waste a bunch of heroin to get some random dude fucking hooked on heroin?
But it's funny because Gene Hackman said actually. That's his favorite of his performances was French Connection 2 because he has like lots of dramatic monologues when he's on heroin and stuff. And...
Well, I'm sure for an actor that's like awesome.
Yeah,
I always like those in the skits we do when we have like a lot of dialogue to like memorize and like kind of perform more and stuff.
Yeah,
it's fun. So you're looking up the Oscar stuff. I guess.
Yeah, so for Best Actor it was Mean Gene. Peter Finch for Sunday Bloody Sunday, Walter Matthau for Koch, George C. Scott for The Hospital, and Topol for Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh shit! Fiddler on the Roof, I heard is fucking like one of the best films ever made. Or no, that's I think that's a different movie I'm thinking of.
I mean, it's a beloved movie.
This movie is beloved.
I've seen The Hospital. George C. Scott's pretty good in that, but I think Gene deserved. I've never heard of the other ones. But Mean Gene deserved his gold.
Yeah, he's good. He's great.
And then the last thing is there were some deleted scenes.
Yes.
One was interesting where it was the dude who was the sniper. It's him like visiting a dominatrix.
It's him killing some people.
Well, he's getting like whipped by a dominatrix. I guess to show he's depraved or whatever.
What?
But then he...
okay, so for some reason I thought these weren't deleted scenes. I was thinking these were fucking like documentaries. I was like, why the fuck is this guy getting whipped? Like I want to show the audience that I'm not really a bad guy, but I'm depraved. And I was like, what? It's a fucking part.
But then at the end, she's like, all right, you owe me $150, and he only gives her 100, and then he like beats her up. So it's like, this is a bad dude. I kind of wish that scene was still in the movie because it makes him even more like villainous.
Is that the guy that like you said the sniper, like the bald guy or whatever?
Yeah, the dude
that kills the dude in the beginning or whatever. Yeah, I think that guy. I like that guy in the film. I think that like it could have been. There could have been more like flushed out parts for him because he kind of just shows up a couple times and it's almost like it's like the very weakest of Bond henchmen. Yeah. Fucking S&M. What a fucking freak. He's like, you beat me? No, I'll beat you. It's like, Jesus. Okay, so, I guess we'll find out what's going on for Weird Watches next week if we're still doing this shit or not.
Well, what's your score? What's your rating for the French Connection?
Let's let's see here. What should I give this film?
You're like, 2 thumbs down.
I'm
boo.
like 0.95. It's barely a film. It's dog shit. No, I give this film. I don't know. It's a very different film for sure from like last week's film. Like the performance. It's very obviously it's like different parts of the career and stuff like that. I'd probably say like. I think like it deserves a 9.95. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was just a lot of tailing in this movie, and that kind of like didn't really interest me as much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like other parts of the film outweigh, the kind of like repetitive parts of it. Like the chase scene was like ridiculous. Just the characters themselves are very like, and it's not even like, even if you take all that out of it, it's like the grittiness of the film that's like you said, it's very early on in this and doing this, and something that obviously they recreated in like newer films and stuff that they're still doing to this day. Like, I mean, essentially like the fucking Joker is like this time period of like this gritty, 70s like big city New York where it's like, so I think that like with all that combined, it's definitely like a 9.95 for me. I think it's like a film that everybody talks about this film and says like, you should watch it, and I think you definitely should watch it. But it's one of those films, you should get around to sooner than later to watch.
Yeah, I'm with you. To me, this is one of my favorite movies. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. It's a 9.95. But I get your point about the tailing, but it's meant to show like the tediousness of their jobs, But I get how that could be like.
It's just a little kind of overdone, in my opinion, but like not to take anything away from the actual film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's pretty riveting from start to finish.
This has been riveting, except for the parts where like Mean Gene is fucking like Popeyeing people in the bathroom.
So we've watched a couple like very. Prestigious movies, and we're not going to do that next week.
What's next week?
Prime Cut, where one of the main characters is named Weenie. And I don't believe it was nominated for any Oscars. But it'll be fun to talk about, and Gene is very mean.
Prime Cut. Yeah, well, we'll see. Hopefully,
it'll be fun to talk about, but yeah.
When did this movie come out? Like 70s?
I think it was right after. This is early 70s too.
Yeah.
So it might have been right after French Connection.
He's like French Connection.
Young Gene.
So yeah, man. Once again, it was a great podcast episode. We'll see you guys next week. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but
yeah, it was fun. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye. I'm out of here.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I should get going too.
Get that hair fixed by Saturday. We're going now. Goodbye.
Are you nervous? What, are you nervous? What are you nervous? It's all you like falling everywhere.
I think I'm pretty sure. Okay. That way it'll be easy.
I'm like your thoughts. Well, at least I'm not anxious.
Action. Hey. See. Hey, thanks. Take two.
Well, in the scene, you walk more forward, so I can actually get behind you.
Should I get like?
Yeah, you just stop. Secret. Well.
Hey. Yeah. Let's do one more.
You walked over here and I was like,
I guessed it.
How could this happen to me? I made my mistakes, got nowhere to run. The night goes on as I'm fading away.
Like you ghost John.
Don't leave me hanging, bro. You're like, fuck you.
that's our 12-year right there.
Action.
Hey!
All right, thanks.
What's it going? Come on. What can I get you boys? Oh yeah, what can I get you boys?
My trademark. No, your trademark is like we'd start and you'd be like, whoa. That felt fucking awesome. Bang my knee. Cool.